Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Tonja Walker. This is One Day to Love. I had 2 weeks off and it was fantastic. I got a lot of things done around my house and things I needed to do personally. But I'm so happy to be back. And thanks for watching all these shows that you may have missed. I heard a lot from many of you, and I was happy to hear that feedback that you got to catch up a little bit. Today, my guest is this magnificent man named Michael Sutton, who played Stone on General Hospital in a iconic storyline. He was Kimberly McCullough's, Robin's, Scorpio's boyfriend, and he contracted AIDS and died on the show. And it was groundbreaking, truly. And the performance was amazing on both their parts. And I'm going to try to put it in here, but if I can't, you've just got to go on YouTube and look at it. If I can get it in here, if I'm legally allowed to, I will. And if not, just go on YouTube and take a look at it. It's really amazing and really worth rewatching. If you've never seen it, then watch it for the first time. It was brilliant. And thanks again for being here. Please remember to like and subscribe down below and tell all your friends and share the video if you like it. And I'll see you in a minute. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with me on One Day to Love. My special, special guest today is the award-winning, beautiful, incredible businessman, but you know him as Stone on General Hospital, Michael Sutton. So, Michael, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's
I
my
don't know if
pleasure.
anybody knows how incredibly successful you are in all your other ventures, but I do. I do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank you
was in
so
real estate
much.
too in Connecticut
Oh, beautiful.
and Fairfield,
I'm
Connecticut.
sure that's got, yeah, beautiful, wealthy areas there, huh? Beautiful homes.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Also, the terrain was beautiful. The mountains were beautiful. Um,
Right.
it was right on the Long Island Sound there in Westport. So I worked for Berkshire
Beautiful.
Hathaway in Westport,
Uh-huh.
and I sold in Greenwich and Fairfield and Easton where I lived, which had like one stoplight. Um,
Oh,
e-
really?
yeah, Easton is historical, and they won't change it at all. They won't grow, they won't
Yeah.
change, they won't. So people that live there and they go back there, it's exactly the same as it was when they were kids there.
Yeah. It's kind of nice, huh?
My kids want to move back there. They want to raise their
Yeah,
family.
I don't blame them.
They don't want to live there for their
Yeah.
career, but they want to raise their
Yeah.
families there. And I'm glad I did
Do
it
people from New York go there?
all the time and vice
Yeah.
versa. Yeah, they go there to get pumpkins and
Yeah. Yeah.
apples and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's close enough to be a second home too, right? From the
Yeah,
city. I
that's
know a
why I
lot of
used to
people that are
drive
in
in.
Greenwich.
I used to drive in. Well,
Yeah.
Greenwich is a lot closer, but the people are different there. There's more like New
Yeah.
York, but the people in Easton um, are trying to stay more normal, whatever that means. You
Yeah.
know,
Listen, I think that's a good thing.
I
The
did
world's
too.
gotten so crazy that
Yeah, I
normal
did
sounds
too.
good.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
too. I lived in Ridgefield before that, and that was beautiful. So if you ever get a chance to get
Did you
back,
live out there when you were,
just on One
yeah.
Life
Did
to
you
Live.
live out there when you were working on the soap?
On One Life to Live, yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
was on One
Got
Life
it.
to Live for 8 years, and
Yeah.
and when
So you were on during that same stretch when I was on GH,
yeah,
93,
actually,
4, 5.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
From 90 to 97, I was on. And
Right.
before that, I was on General Hospital from 86 to 90. So I just can't get over what I saw. I went back and looked at it again. Your scenes with Robin when
Huh.
when Stone died.
Yeah.
Um, it was so good.
Yeah. Thank you.
So good. I was with my husband when he took his last breath. I was with my grandmother when she took her
Mm,
last breath. And
mm.
so it was so, so good. It was so believable. and that's hard.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it's hard to conjure up, especially when you're a kid. I mean, you guys were so
Yeah.
young, and what you did there was really sensational. It really was,
Yeah. Thank you.
and it was so
Thank you.
simple. It was so simple,
Yeah.
which is what it is.
Right. Right.
It was
Yeah.
it was quiet and simple and just right on the nose. I was really moved.
yeah.
I watched it a lot.
Well, looking back, the reason why I think we were able to do it is we had so much help. The show made us the priority, and it wasn't just about being the marquee storyline, which it was, but the way that they went about it, they supported us with the due diligence of going to the AIDS hospices, the writers from UCLA. I mean, they really embraced this storyline to a degree that I don't think, to my knowledge, the soaps just hadn't done before. So, hats off to Wendy Rich and Claire Labine and, you know, all the writing staff. They were amazing. I still
Yeah,
keep in touch
right.
with Michelle Valjean, and
Do
there's
you?
they all still, yeah, because of social media, I'm able to keep connected to some people, and which is great because when you kind of go through a storyline that like that, everyone is in the trenches, and you got a bond for life because if they were connected and helped you in a capacity in telling that story, you kind of got to know their spirit, their essence, their what they how they resonated, different than just superficial highs and buys and whatnot. And I know that even when you're on a commercial, if you're with a group of people for 4 days, you get very close to people, and then you have this anxiety of separation. So it was it's that times a million because it's years worth of work with people day in and day out. But when you're acting, you're vulnerable. So you connect in a deeper way, but let alone the subject matter being what it was and being vulnerable or raw or emotional. A lot of times, that doesn't happen just when you're acting. The material's got to be that. So this was the material and the support and the emphasis on getting it right. So all of those things, I think, allowed for this story to be told that way. And they didn't rush it. It wasn't a 2 week, 3 month, 5 month storyline. It was like, they planned it for a year. They rolled it out for a year. We did a documentary on the side. So, I mean, it really was that once in a lifetime opportunity to tell this story. So, in that sense, I'm blessed. And then on the other side, I'm like, oh my God, how did they do that to me? It was just overwhelming. And
Yeah.
it was close to breaking me. And I think that's why I was so raw in those scenes, because I was a little bit thrown in the deep end. And I wanted to do right by the subject matter and the people that I saw actually dying from the disease. And I think that's what led us to live those characters. And it showed,
It sure
and
did.
that's why it resonated with the fans. Years later, I went to some event just, a couple months ago to support. It was fan appreciation for General Hospital, and it was also tied into a dog saving charity that Vanessa Marcel is attached to. So Maurice was out there, and Vanessa and some other cast members, Laura, Rena Sofer, and some other people, and talking to the fans, and it was if no time had passed. We're talking 30 years ago, so
Yeah, I
was
know. I
it
still get
it
that
it meant
too.
it meant a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, it meant a lot.
I know.
Yeah,
Well, also you were so raw. Don't you think that like because there was really no place for other people to hide their feelings about AIDS and the people they were losing and the
yeah,
experience they were having in real life. There wasn't any
yeah,
place for them to put on any kind of an air or even have much of a separation between who they really are and who they are as your
yeah,
bosses or your coworkers or your writers or whatever. There was a
yeah,
period during which all of us were so affected personally
yeah,
all over the place in several areas of our
yeah,
lives and the lives of those around us that
yeah,
even if you're working with someone that normal little screen that everybody has of just being social, that would have to go away or be extremely thin to I
Yeah.
would think, don't you, to be able to discuss it
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
create it and talk about it and live it, you know.
Yeah. And also the fact that they chose to tell it with heterosexual characters
I
on
love
the soap, actually, that's what made it kind of groundbreaking, because it was inclusionary and you couldn't stereotype it or pigeonhole it or not get affected by it. And I think that choice in doing it that way, especially with, my character was a new character just a few years, in the show, but for Robin, Kimberly, she grew up on the show. So the fans were watching their little golden, child, and they were protective over her. So it brought that into the mix as well. So it really affected everybody, and it made people um, have compassion where they other might not have.
They might
And
have
I
prejudice.
mean, if you think about where, of course, and so it broke down those barriers.
Mhm.
And if you see, in my opinion, where LGBTQ plus has gone, in 2024, that was one of the first moments that kind of changed the culture,
Mhm. It
and
really
so
did.
that decades later, this is the result of storylines like that. So, in so many ways, when you're on a soap, you don't get to choose what storylines you get or where the character is going to go. But if I had to do it all again, if I was going to be introduced on the soap, I'm glad that it went where it did.
I
I'm
am
glad
too.
that that's,
I'm glad for you, but I
yeah,
also know how
I'm
sad it is.
happy about that.
It's also really sad to have to leave, though. When you
Oh
really
yeah,
love your job,
yeah,
which I did, and they kill you
yeah,
off, and you're just devastated.
yeah,
It's devastating. So you've also
yeah,
got those feelings at the same time. You're playing this role, but
yeah,
you know that you're not going to have a job next week, and
right.
can't get to come back here anymore. It's a devastating feeling. I mean, I remember
Yeah,
it crushed me. It crushed me.
yeah, yeah,
Because we had worked for me and the producer right before the guy that killed me off. Um, we had worked for a long, long time to turn her around,
mm,
to turn her into a understandable character because she'd been such a bad villain. And
got
so
it.
we had worked through the writer's strike, and I'd helped him write
Right.
the storyline so that we could establish, that's my dog, establish all of her backstory. So Kimberly went on to be a big time director. She's directing and stuff now.
Yeah,
And I think that's neat.
yeah.
She had a baby. She's a mom. I mean, I just can't believe it. It's really cool, And you got
I
married.
know, I know. So happy for her.
Yeah, you
I
got
did.
married.
I
Did
got
you, did you have children?
no children yet. Hopefully, God willing, that's the
Yeah,
next chapter. My
yeah.
wife and I, we have a clothing line together.
I saw the
And
silk.
she's a talented designer.
It's silks, right?
Yeah,
What kind of,
yeah. She
is it
started,
blouses? What is it?
so she started in silks, and she was doing this beautiful wrap that transitioned about 15 different ways that you could style it, which was cool. And then she graduated to incorporating these cymatic themes that we kind of collaborated together. So everything is about frequency, which we're very big believers on, just resonating at the same frequency or even frequency to heal. Everything organic has a frequency in them. We all resonate at our own frequencies. The earth has its frequencies. So in a lot of ways, it just connects everybody. So the clothing line is an audio frequency visualized called a cymatic, and that's the theme of our brand.
How do you spell it?
Lakris for LA
Because I
Kristina.
looked it up. Laris. Lakris.
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 Yeah,
Is that how you say it?
Lakris.
Lakris.
Lakris. Yeah,
I think it's fantastic. I love that. I
yeah.
want one. I
Thank
want
you.
to see one. I want to buy one. How do people buy it?
We have a website.
Okay.
It's
What is
Lakris brand. Yeah, lakrisbrand.com.
that? ChrisBrand.com. Okay, I'll put that in the
Lakrisbrand.com. Yeah, we sell to like top boutiques in and around LA, and it's good. She was modeling for a long time, and then in transitioning to this career, she just stayed in fashion because she loves fashion, and she's very talented. So
That's
it's
great.
good, and it's creative. It's fun.
Do they sell it down here in the desert? Do they have a store down here?
No, we would have to do it through the website.
Oh,
We're selling to a place in Newport area, and then here in LA, and then everything else we do through the website.
yeah, it would go really well in Palm Springs and Palm Desert and
Yeah,
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 in
ab-
Wells, and especially
absolutely.
now. This is the season.
Yeah,
Everybody's showing up, everybody's coming. You know,
yeah,
the speed limit is 50 miles an hour on the road, and you're lucky if you can get somebody to drive 30 now. And we have very
yeah.
little
I'm
traffic.
actually I'm
Do
actually wearing,
Where's
yeah.
that? Is
So we
that in
go to
Palm Springs?
Joshua
Joshua
Tree.
Tree. Yeah.
Yeah, so growing up in LA, I always would go to Palm Springs, and then Palm Desert became fashionable, but I never went the other side of the mountain, which
Mhm.
is Joshua Tree and 29 Palms and all of that spiritual sort of vortex and kind of counterculture that's existing out there. So
Yeah.
we started going out that side and went to some of the thermal baths,
Yeah.
which are beautiful.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah,
It's amazing
yeah,
that this water just
yeah.
right up out of the ground. Perfect.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, there's aquifers all the way down to like San Diego area, like Coachella and all that. There's beautiful aquifers all underneath. It's beautiful farming. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But we went and hiked. We hiked um, Joshua Tree. That I guess the hiking trails. It was like 3 miles. We had
There's a
no
lot of
idea what
them.
we were getting into. We didn't. Oh my God, it just about killed us. We do the hikes here, in LA.
Yeah.
So it's like 45 minutes to or an hour. We just kept thinking, oh, the end must be up here. We would get there exhausted. And we're like, oh my God, it's still another. So it was about, I don't know, a few hours
Oh, yeah.
that it took us to do this hike.
It could be
But
an
once we
all
got to the
day.
top,
Well, that's the
it
payoff.
was breathtaking.
Yeah. I used to
It's
go to,
called Ryan's Peak.
okay, I'll write that down. Ryan's Peak. I love hiking. So
Ryan's Peak.
it's one of my favorite exercises.
Yeah.
But I used to
But a
pay
lot of cool
people.
places out there.
I used to pay
Oh
people to
yeah.
starve me. Yeah. I'd go to these retreats and not eat any food and just juice and get colonics and pray.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Right. So it's always good to reset. Yeah.
yeah, I used to do that every year, at least once or twice. And now I do
Yeah.
it a little bit less often, but it also helps your weight. If you're a girl and you gain 10 pounds in a year, you can just knock it off in a week, because you go to these places and pay them $5,000 a week to
Yeah.
starve you, to not feed you. I used to
Right.
tease people about that. Yeah, I'm paying all this money for them not to feed me. But we would go hiking in St. George, Utah, and
Oh, beautiful.
it would be all these red mountains, and whatever problem I ever had or thought I had, when we got up to the top of these mountains, like 8 miles, it's all day, starting at 7 in the morning, it's
Yeah.
all day. You can't see anything except mountains.
Yeah.
So you feel like I really felt like if I fell off, no one would miss me. And I know that they would, but you feel
Right.
so separated from everything and everyone that
Yeah.
the idea that you could just disappear there
Right.
and no one would no, it wouldn't really matter because you don't really matter. Like your little tiny self that you think is so
Right.
important in the scheme of
Yeah.
all this that you're looking at, this vast, incredible mountain range, red mountain after red mountain after red mountain. It's
Yeah.
just like you feel insignificant, which I found to be very relaxing. And then I
Right.
realized whatever
Yeah.
problems I thought I had were
Yeah.
even more minuscule. These
Mhm.
problems in my head that I thought I had, these things that were bothering me, were like a fly on an elephant's
Right.
butt, it was just like
Yeah.
so helpful to me. I loved doing that. It was the best thing for me to do
Yeah.
on vacation, you know. And it's hard to find a man that
Well,
wants to do that with you. So I used to do that by myself a lot because
really? So your
yeah,
your husband now, does he hike with you, or will he
he
do that?
died. He died. So
Uh,
But we used to go up there together. But when I was going to do one of those 8 mile things, he wasn't all that excited about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Okay. I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, he died
Got
five
it. Got
years
it.
ago, and I came out here
Oh,
to
wow.
try to work, and then I was going to go back to soap operas. I thought I couldn't,
Right.
but it was the pandemic, and everything was closed for 2 years, and so it's
Yeah.
it's been hard for me to find work, steady work that pays well. And I didn't want to
Yeah.
go back to real estate because I didn't want to have to do that stupid class again for 135 hours. Because I got my New
Right.
York
Right.
City
Right.
license,
Right.
I got my New York license first. So I've already done this. And then I did the Connecticut one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's good in like 8
Right.
different states. But I could have
Right.
had it. My mother keeps reminding me, you could have had it by now, Tanya, if you'd just done it, you know.
Right.
You know how mothers are.
Right.
So sweet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right. They're
Yeah.
right, usually most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's true.
yeah. But how did you get
Well,
into
when
real
you were talking
estate?
about hiking,
Yeah.
oh, well, for real estate, I grew up in Beverly Hills area. Went to Beverly Hills High School. I still live in and around, Beverly Hills adjacent. I'm in West Hollywood. So I know this area very well. And, one of the key things about real estate is pick your market, know your market. I know every street. I know, who lived on what street, what side of the street is better,
Hmm.
what architects, what style works. And the way that I kind of weaved my way into real estate was because when I was doing my acting and the ability to stay an actor, I needed to keep my days free to audition. So I would promote restaurants and nightclubs. So I started
Yeah,
out
I saw that. And you were
promoting
doing all the who's
one
who
or
places. What places did you represent, do you think?
well, back then there was about five promoters. Now there's about 5,000 promoters, and we used to control the city. So one night, one of the five people did a party, and then I would do the next night, someone else would do the next night. We sort of catered to the same 300 to 500 people, right?
How
That's how kind of
fun.
LA operated back then.
What
Yeah, it
years
was a
were this?
different different
Was this the
different
90s?
city.
Was this the 90s?
Yeah, this was as I was ending General Hospital 95. My dad was a publicist for a lot of actors
Big
and
time. Big
entertainment
time.
production
Yeah,
companies.
I
Yeah,
saw.
he did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
started in the music business. He was
He
great.
represented
My
everybody.
best
Yeah.
friend in the world, the greatest. He passed a few years, 4 years ago now.
That's
We're pandemic time, which was crazy, and lockdowns.
yeah.
But anyway, the story is that he was doing all these production companies, but had one nightclub, and it was on Sunset. Uh,
Bar
that's
one?
now a club called Bootsy Bellows. It was called Bar One back then.
I remember
And so
bar
I
one.
told my dad, I said,
I
listen,
have bar one
yeah,
stories. I
it's
have
kind of
bar one
legendary.
stories. Yeah.
Don't
And the
don't
three
we
things it
all?
was
It's
before,
true.
and the three things it was before that. It was three or four different things before
Oh
bar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing. All the places had to be recycled because only certain spots had their, conditional use permit to be a nightclub or to have dancing or to do XYZ. So I said to him, I said, they're literally killing me on the soap opera. I'm working too hard. I'm just learning my lines and going to work and eating and sleeping, and I have no time for anything else. And I said, I'm neglecting myself. I need an outlet. I need to see my friends. I said, let me promote one night a week. That's how it started. So I promoted, let's say it was a Friday night, or it was either Wednesday or Friday night, brought all my friends, and it turned out to be this huge hit. Every celebrity, every anybody, we curated a beautiful group of people, and it kind of turned into a whole side career for me. So I did
Wow.
one or two parties a week for decades. And then I ended up opening my own restaurants and nightclubs. But the reason real estate kind of resonated is because I was picking places in the city and kind of gentrifying them. So we were kind of building out Hollywood, which at that time was kind of undesirable. And then obviously the first thing that comes into an area usually is a nightclub, and then some restaurants, and then a supermarket, and then coffee shops, and then everything else sort of builds out from there. And then next thing you know, they outprice you and the real estate goes up, and then you got to find the next new area. So that's how I got into real estate, is understanding it from that perspective, right? And I
That's
built a
before
lot
the
of my
Grove.
restaurants and nightclubs.
That's before the Grove, right?
Yes, yes. In fact, one of the first restaurants that I opened as an owner was called The Lodge, and Caruso from The
Love
Grove,
him.
the developer
Love
of The
him.
Grove, used to come there weekly and have dinner
Love that guy.
at the lodge, and we became good friends. And he actually tried to get me to open up the lodge in Glendale at one of his next centers that he opened. So, I
He's
mean,
a
no one's done it
genius.
better than Caruso.
He's a genius.
He
He's
should have been.
brilliant.
He
The
should have
mayor.
been.
No
He should have been
kidding.
our mayor. Yeah,
No kidding. Yeah.
yeah.
That would have been
But
so
but he's
incredibly fabulous. And you can count on him. If he says he's going to do something,
yeah,
he does it, and it's brilliant. It's better than you can even
such a great guy.
imagine. I'm such a fan of
And
his.
he's a businessman. He understands the city. It's such a shame that we didn't get him, and we paid the price for not
And we
electing him.
still are.
Unfortunately,
Still are.
and we still are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's how I got into real estate, and then knowing the area and knowing the clientele, it just was a perfect fit for me. And then, like anything, branding yourself or letting people know that that's what you do is the next step of it. Is so I had to recondition people from thinking of me as an actor or someone in the restaurant and nightclub business to doing real estate,
Yeah.
because otherwise they don't call you and think of you. So that you got to be in their mind in the way you want them to perceive you, which is difficult to keep changing careers like I did.
Yeah. Tell me
But
about
I
it. I
like
know.
people.
I know. I
Oh
know.
my God. But I at the end of the day, I like people, which is half of it, because you being an actor and then in the hospitality business, and as an actor, you're trying to figure out the character, what motivates you, what story you're telling, how to connect with people. In food and beverage, you're playing, a role where you're entertaining people in your own environment. So you need to be gracious and accommodate. So all those same things kind of fit in the real estate world, because you tend to have to play that same role with
Yeah.
your client
Yeah.
and handhold them and lead them to their, it's a big purchase. So they got to trust
Yeah.
you. They got to
Especially in
know that you
LA.
know what
My
you're talking
God.
about.
In LA, it's really big
Yeah.
purchase. I had a beautiful house in
Yeah.
Connecticut. I had several. And the last one was the smallest one. It was 6,500 square feet. And
Okay.
I think we bought it for 1,200,000. And it had 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms and 3 acres. So when
Beautiful. Wow.
So I sold it when Ed died and I moved out here and I wanted to buy a house out here. So I brought my money out here. I couldn't get a knockdown piece of crap that I would live in a decent
Yeah.
neighborhood in LA for the price I got for my house. So that's how come
I
I
know.
ended up in the desert, because we used to come here on vacation all the time. And when I lived in LA by myself in the 80s, I came out in 1980. Um, I worked all the time, and I was a small town girl in LA. So
Yeah.
after about, I don't know how long, I started to like vibrate, and I would get in the car and drive down to Palm Springs, and I'd, usually be crying
Yeah.
and getting home and had the T-tops off the car, and I had a Cordoba with rich Corinthian leather, um and I would like sing James Taylor at the top of my lungs and drive into town. And when I'd get to 111, the the air just went, it just knocked all the stress out of me. And the
Yeah.
sun just baked all the stress out of me. And now I have
Yeah.
spots all over me that you could probably connect and come up with a really interesting photo. Um, Sunspots are not pretty, but you get them when you're in the sun all the time, and I was. But I fell in
Yeah.
love with it out here. I just fell in love with it. So we used to come out. It's so funny because when he was married to somebody else, he'd come out here for vacation, and I'd come out here by myself for vacation. So when we met, this was the one place we had in common. So we were going to retire here.
Right.
So I just moved here. And I thought I'd be working on a show by now, but it just hasn't, there wasn't anything. And now you can't even get in the door to go see anybody. It's just so weird.
Oh yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I used to
Yeah.
get jobs
It's
is
changed a lot.
I'd knock on the door, and now there's no
Yeah.
door to knock on. I'm like, that's the strangest thing I've ever seen in my whole life, that there's no door to knock on. Um,
I know. I
it's
know.
really
I know.
dumb. It's really dumb. It's taken a lot of the fun out of it, in my opinion. And it's
Yeah.
and it's kept the people that work, it's a smaller and smaller group of people. And there's a lot of people leaving to go work someplace else. Um,
I know.
it's a
I know.
shame. It's a shame they're doing that to people because it used to be so much fun. If you
Yeah.
could stop by an agent's office, you could stop by a producer's office, or you could stop by a studio and they'd let you in and you could go talk to some people. Um, it's just you can't get even in the door to have lunch with people you used to work with anymore. It's really,
No.
it's really, really weird.
Well, I think in general, communities have gone away. With the lockdown, everyone was so isolated and they just stayed isolated and they're not connecting anymore. And social media is a different kind of connection and it's not the real thing. And I think that that's what you're describing in every category, the communal aspect. And, human beings are very much, a community species. We need to interact. We need to sort of be in that group environment.
You need
Not to
skin,
say that we
you
also
kind of
don't
need
need
skin to
to
skin
take
contact. You don't have to have sex with
you
everybody, but you have to like give people hugs and say, hi, how are you? And what's
you
going on?
do.
Like really see people. And it's just a
Yeah.
shame what's happened.
Yeah. It's
It's
missing right now.
yeah, it is. I hope to God it comes back because everybody's paying a price for that, you know.
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
things about these
Yeah.
stupid Trump rallies was that everybody showed up. This huge amount
Mm.
of people, enormous amounts of people showed up.
Yeah.
And we're all like rooting for the same thing. And it's
Yeah.
almost like a football team, or when you're cheering a football team, and there's so many people that never get to be with that many people, and then you bring all your people, and they bring all their people, and you spend the whole day there. It's not Woodstock, but my God, I mean, it's like these big, huge rallies. It brought so many people together and
Yeah. Shocking.
created this feeling of community and love, really. I mean, it really did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's cool. I really hope more of that happens because it's so,
Me too.
and strangers would talk to other strangers all the time. Normally
Yeah.
you don't talk to
Yeah.
strangers, you talk to the people that you know. And when
Yeah.
you're all all for something, just like if you're all
Yeah.
against something, but if you're all for something, it's a little more positive. And there's a
Yeah.
great amount of energy that's so healing and so much fun. I went to the GOP
Yeah.
convention and uh and I went as a delegate from New York. And there were so many people there from all over everywhere. And it was just really a fun time. And I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is, I'd only been
Right.
there once before. I was on the morning coffee show, like when I was on One Life to Live. And I hadn't been there
Right.
since then. And there's something about these Midwestern cities it's really kind of my cup of tea,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I just really thought it was cool, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing that you were able to do that. When I was on the soap, I kind of had I guess, sort of a fan manager type person. I don't even know what else to call him. He was sort of an agent that booked me malls across the US. So I'd
Right.
fly in, do signatures for the 2 days, malls in two
Make a
adjacent
pile of
cities,
cash.
met a ton of people.
I
Yeah, and
know.
come back and film on Monday. Um, and that guy, that's what he did for a living. And he had four or five or six of us doing this circuit. But you get to meet everybody and you get to see middle America, which I had never kind of seen before. I'm in LA, a big city. That's really all I knew. When I traveled, I'd go to New York, another big city. So I didn't really see any of the Midwest. So that opportunity was amazing and get to meet people. And with the soap, they think they know you because you're in their living
Absolutely.
room every day and they're
Absolutely.
watching you. So there's no barrier.
It's
And
true.
so I would get the unfiltered version and the hugs and the
Oh,
kisses
we
that
love you
really
so
they
much. I
thought they knew
know.
me. Yeah, but it was priceless. I
It
love that.
is. Yeah.
So I know what you're describing, and I think that we as a nation need a lot more of that you're describing. I grew up I was born in 70, grew up, my years were the 80s, which was fun and crazy and wild and safe and playing outdoors and running around with your neighbors. And, when the lights, when the sun went down, that's when you came home, but you were out all day
Yeah.
around the neighborhood running around. That my friends described to me doesn't exist anymore. So I feel like certain things have changed, not for the better. And we were lucky to kind of grow up in that period of time that we did. And I think that there's a lot of community and culture that's changing so fast and so adversarial at the moment. It's not what we are used to. And I think it's a learning curve to figure out how to interact with people again, because um, especially in this political environment, we're all patriots. We all want America. We all want America to excel, succeed, and to, you know, this be our home. We all want the same thing. And somehow people have forgotten that and they're just fighting, fighting, fighting. And it's a shame. So I hope there's more love. I hope people find that frequency,
I do too.
um, and sort of build together. And hopefully that's the next phase that we go in. I mean, no one wants these wars, and no one wants the censorship, and no one wants so many of the things that are
No.
fed up with, we want to be
I
able to
got,
turn on the news and trust what they're telling us as
well,
well.
that's a long shot. That's a long shot. And
Yeah.
that's both sides' fault because they didn't uphold the antitrust laws, you know. They're not supposed to have any. When
Yeah.
I was a journalism major in college, the law was, and I'm sure it still is, that you can't own a radio station and television station and a newspaper in the same town or in the same area, in the same broadcast
Yeah.
area. And
Yeah.
now there's like four people that own everything.
I
So
know. It's just
whatever
wrong.
whatever is in their best interest to push, they push.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whoever is paying, putting the mayonnaise on their bologna sandwich the most, that's who
It's
that's
true.
that's who gets promoted. And the pharmaceutical companies are like they own the TV stations. They just own it. You can,
Yeah. Yeah.
try Resulti, try Minolti, try ask your doctor about and I'm like, what? When I grew up, they didn't have anything like that. That was nuts, nuts. I have to go suggest a drug to my doctor? That's weird. And then it can
Right.
cause
Yeah.
this, death, blindness, hearing loss, blah, 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 right? And you're just
Yeah.
well, no, I'm not taking that. And then they go
I
into a
know.
song. I just
Right.
die. They go into a song and dance, and there's woohoo, and then you could die, you could have this, you could have. I just think it's funny and it's sick in the same way.
I
So
know. I
I
know.
hope, I know that people think it's controversial. Like Kennedy is controversial, but I really like him. I like a lot
Yeah.
of
Me too.
yeah, I like a lot of the things he had to say, and I really think his heart's in the right
Yeah.
place. And he's
Yeah.
sober,
Me too.
and he risked his life. I mean, he risked his whole family and everything to. These people risk a lot to be
Yeah.
to be on this team.
Absolutely.
Elon's risking a lot.
Absolutely.
They're all risking a lot to be on this team because
Yeah.
there's so much hatred toward this particular team. And
I know. I
I
know.
really have a lot of admiration for people that put their guts. It takes a lot of guts.
Yeah, it
You know.
does. It does. I mean, with my contemporaries, we grew up kind of hearing and idolizing that Kennedy Democrat mentality. I mean, that was what this nation kind of stood for,
Yeah.
was Camelot and the president and his brother, the attorney general, and that movement, and Martin Luther King in that period of time. It was just, and that Democratic Party angle is the Democratic Party that I grew up in. So when I see and hear our, Robert Kennedy Jr. talk the way that he does, that resonates with me because that's my cloth, that's the cloth that I was cut from. So it makes a lot of sense to me. And I just couldn't believe that the kid that had suffered so much, seen his father and his uncle killed, seen what he saw, could actually be bullied the way that they did him and not give him any credibility and try to humiliate and embarrass him. I just was like, what's going on? Show some empathy and give this guy a chance to, you know, speak. I just didn't understand why they tried to get rid of him. Now I do, right? But I'm really happy that he has a voice and a seat at the table, and he wants to help and do great things. And a lot of my friends that we all grew up Democrat in LA, you know, my group of friends here in and around this area. So we all hope that people will listen to, you know, RFK Jr. now, and that he can have a chance to do great things. We do
He's
believe
from
that
the
he has the
Democratic
best
Party
interest of
that
the
we
people.
love. He's from the Democratic Party that we love. And this other Democratic Party,
Yeah.
nuts. I don't get them at all. And they scare the shit out of me. But he's from the Democratic Party that I supported. I was always a supporter of
Yeah.
whoever I thought was best. I didn't really care um, all that much what party it was, but it mattered to me who the person was. But there was a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, the people I liked on the Republican side and the Democratic side usually were pretty similar. Actually, they were almost
No doubt.
they were almost
Absolutely.
the same person. It was and then
Yeah.
this idea of going in two totally different directions, and I'm not sure they actually. I don't know how that happened, but I'm just glad it seems to be calming down, and I hope.
I know. Well, it used to be just the difference between these Democrats and Republicans that were all in the center. It just was how big or small you wanted the government to be
That's right.
and how many social programs you wanted. But otherwise, they were all really kind of right there in the middle.
All right.
Now it's like this, and you can't even understand both sides. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think it's about a left and a right thing because they've changed so many different times over the decades. Like, you know, the Cheney and Bush's agenda of putting us into constant war was usually the Republican angle in those formative years for me. Now that's this Democratic neocon global agenda war mongering type. So I'm like, whoa, what happened? And
Well,
when did it
I
happen?
don't
And
know who, I don't
no
know
one,
when
no
people are
one
going to.
notified me.
Yeah, well, the Russians,
Yeah,
I'm right now. I mean, people will watch this show at different times, and it may not be relevant. But right now, right now what's happening is that Biden has
yeah,
just allowed Zelensky to shoot long-range missiles with the USA name on them right into Russia, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. It's not going to benefit us in any way, and it's very, very dangerous for us. For us.
yeah, yeah.
And
Especially in this transition period. That's crazy.
it's just so dangerous. And I don't know how
Yeah,
anybody can stop it. And I don't know who's actually
right,
making the call.
right.
Is
Yeah,
Biden making the
it's
call?
definitely,
Is who's making the call? Is it one of these guys that gets up and talks, with Kareem Jean-Pierre? Is it Sullivan? Is it Blinken? Is it who is making the call? It's certainly not Kamala. I think she was on vacation somewhere. But that could have
right.
been, but that's what I read. But who's making the call?
And it's not what the people just voice their opinion asking the government to do. They made a stand just now in this election to say we don't want the war, we don't want these things. So you know it's going against the will of the people. Look, I hope that it's so crazy because I have best friends that are Democrats. I have best friends that are Republicans. There's no communicating between the two sides right now at all. I have people that say, oh, vaccines and the boosters are the best things ever, still in 2024. And I'm like, really? Okay. I don't see how you could say that. I got my shots, but I wish I didn't. I
Me
think there's more people that are like that. And then there's some people that didn't get the shots at all, which I didn't have that luxury, but okay.
I didn't either.
You could see how the spectrum goes. So imagine 2024, someone still wants to get the next booster shot. And I'm like, I think we're past that, thinking that that's a good idea. But
There's
yet
a
there are
lot of
people still in
people,
line to do that.
a
So
lot of
that's
people.
why I think the world is correct. We have people on all, you know, you know, lines
They're
of the
standing in
spectrum here.
line down here at the Walgreens to get the RSV,
Yeah.
the flu vaccine, and the COVID vaccine. Um,
And I think it's just the fact that they trust the government incessantly. They can't imagine that the government would not have their best interest. And I would love to be in that naive space that they still live in. But
I would
after all
too.
we've seen,
I would too.
yeah, I wish I could go back in time and just, but I think what we've learned is we can't just openly trust. We have to do our due diligence. We have to seek our own information. We
Yeah.
have to listen to alternative news and media and right, wrong, and indifferent, and then process it and then make our own decisions. I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned is that you gotta you gotta spend more time to find out what the truth actually is
And
and
it
do a
takes
little
a
bit more
long
homework.
time. It takes a lot of time. I mean, especially when
It
everybody,
does.
all these people were censored. So you couldn't get Dr.
Yeah.
McCall. You couldn't get these different
Right.
doctors that we now can, but they started saying things and then they got censored, which
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
so scientifically it's terrible to censor somebody who's a person of science.
Well,
Um,
as an actress and an actor like us, right? One of the first things that we're told is in order to believe and perform the character, you have to trust and say yes. Everything's always affirmative. So if you say that the sky is green in this scene, me and you are going to go off that set of truths that, okay, the sky is green, then we'll go from there. And then I'll say something, and then that becomes the new truth, and we build that, right? That's a
yeah,
lot of the Meisner technique and
first law of
exercises. And
improv.
that was like acting. Correct. First law of improv. So as actors, we're very inclined to go with the story, right? We're open. And because of that, what I think I've found with a lot of actors is that they'll hear from this and that and this. And I want to hear from, even if I didn't believe in UFOs, I want to hear from the guy that believes in UFOs. Why does he think that way? If someone believes the earth is flat, which I don't, why do you think that way? I just curious.
That's
I
who
like
I
to
am.
know all sides of a
That's
story.
exactly
And I,
who.
and as actors, we have to be curious because that's what allows us to tap into the character because we're not playing us. We're trying to bring aspects of us into that character and bring him to life. So the only way to do that is curiosity. You got to explore. First thing we do is what's our wardrobe? Okay, how does this bandana make me feel today? Do I like that? Is that how I'm feeling today? Okay, I'm going with the bandana. But that choice is going to push my character in a direction that if I didn't have the bandana on, I would feel different that day. Someone grabs a cane, they put on spectacles, they do certain things as an actor that puts them right into the character, right? So we have little tells that we use in our craft. And I think that because we're actors, we have that benefit. We know how to read people, we're open to people, we want to explore, and then we'll pull our truths even if it's for the character, meaning it may not be true overall, but it's what we're choosing to, layer our character development towards and build our character and our foundation. And then we need a great director who knows the story he's telling. So all of those things are a microcosm, I feel, of community, government, life, how we process things. And it's a very useful tool that we've learned, no matter what we do in our careers or personal life as an actor, I so love that we've explored that and only fellow actors know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we can always connect because we've been in the trenches and we've explored those same things and it's beautiful, you
Don't
know?
you also think it's about being able to understand how somebody else thinks? Like I
Absolutely.
can listen to their whole diatribe and their whole justification for what they believe. I
Right.
can listen to all of that.
Right.
But
Without getting angry at them and it
right, but the
being
problem
against
I
their
have is
right.
that I know a lot of it isn't true.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the things they're
Correct.
basing their, but then they'll swear that the things I'm basing my opinions on isn't true either. So you can decide
Right.
how far down the road you want to go and pull out this fact and pull out that fact and pull out this fact, but people don't. They shut down
Right.
and they say, "You're wrong, I'm not gonna talk to you." And that's
Yeah.
poison. I think that's just poison, but at
Yeah.
least there's more people that feel the way I do. I mean, I may never work. I mean, I really got canceled. I got canceled for saying "Stand for the National Anthem," believe it or not.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's
that's the
okay.
part that that's so un-American to me. I mean,
Yeah.
we're a country that's built on freedom of speech and we pulled away from and we fought wars to maintain our constitutional rights and our freedoms so that no one could enslave us and control us that way. So it's like, I don't know when that went out the window. You should always be applauded for that, you
Yeah.
know, and have the ability to stand for what you believe in. And so should they. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
no one side should stop the other. That's the
Right.
part that everyone has to be open about.
Yeah.
There's different ways,
Well, I'm
you
hoping that
know?
that'll come. I'm hoping that we'll learn from this experience because it sure was a lot. It was a lot. These past 4 years has been
Absolutely.
a lot, So I really hope that
Absolutely.
everybody kind of feels better and grows from it. Um, but I just always laugh at the people that are moving. Remember all the people that were moving the last time he won?
Yeah. 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 I
Everybody's
don't get the
moving. I'm like, where are you going? I mean, what place is better than this place? I heard Portugal's nice because I was considering
well,
moving to Portugal. I'm like, okay, if this place keeps getting crazy and crazier and crazier and crazier, I've got to go someplace. Because really and truly, I started to feel like, where else could I go, and where could I afford to go? And so I started to look at different places I could afford to go, and I found
right.
Portugal. Everybody loves Lisbon. What do you know?
Right. Well, but here's the thing. My take on this is that I still think the greatest country in the world is America.
It is.
I think that at the end of the day, even if we swing too far right or too far left, it will you know, calibrate
I didn't
again,
know if it
and
would, but it
common
did.
sense. It'll find common sense again, and I think
I
that
can't believe it,
that's
honestly. I'm really glad that it did, but I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't
I
sure.
know it's it
It got
well,
really
and
close to scary.
yeah, and I think that we're not out of the woods yet. But I think that if people don't disrupt this constitutional republic and how brilliantly it was written, it will always recalibrate, because every 4 years you have a chance to, if you got it wrong, you'd have a chance to
Fix
fix
it.
it. What became crazy is that people are trying to stop it from recalibrating, and they're trying to change the way that the constitutional republic was drafted, written, and protected us. That's
That
the part we have
freaks
to prevent them from
me
doing.
out. When they start talking about
Yes.
changing the
Yes.
Supreme Court and all these different things, and getting rid of the
Yeah.
filibuster and all these different things, it's so dangerous. It's so incredibly dangerous. And it reminds me back at what they said, what Benjamin Franklin, I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, we have a republic as long as we can keep it. We have a democracy as long as we can keep it. And that it's
Yep.
not an
Yep.
easy thing to
Yep.
keep. It's very fragile, and it just takes a little bit and it can be gone. And I think we kind of got a hint of that.
Well, also, I don't think the Constitution wasn't set up to have career politicians. People were just supposed to do
Absolutely.
a little bit of service and get out. And the reason why I think we have part of this problem is that they've been in too long. They
Way,
know the ins and outs. They know
yeah.
how to circumvent the system, and that's the problem. So there
That's the
just
biggest
shouldn't be
problem.
career
I agree.
politicians.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, especially the ones that have become so wealthy by doing things like changing the antitrust laws or ignoring the antitrust laws because this lobbyist will give them this much money for their campaign, which they must have because they've got to rerun again in
Yeah.
2 years, right? So it's not, they don't really
Yeah.
have a lot of choice because this huge amount of money can
No.
help them stay it's 2 years. So you get into Congress and you immediately start running for reelection. It's 2 years.
Yeah. No, it's
And
crazy.
that's
It
insane.
really is
I mean,
crazy.
that's just insane. It's like if you get married
Yeah.
and you go, okay, well, we're going to get divorced in 2 years if we don't, if we don't, I mean, the time goes by like this. So
Yeah.
it's really, I'm really hoping that does, because that's nuts. That's nuts. Um,
Yeah.
and then the amount of
Yeah.
money that they can make from these insider trading situations that are legal with them. I
Yeah.
mean, and then they owe these people that are paying for their
Yeah.
kids' college because they got all this money legally.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't, you know, you know, My mother
Yeah.
said that my grandmother used to say, mommy would say to grandma, which for West Virginia, we were from West Virginia. And mommy would say to grandma, who you voting for? And grandma would tell her. And mom would say, but you said he was a crook. And grandma said, well, I'd rather vote for the crook I know than the crook I don't know.
All right. Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
wise,
Yeah.
pretty wise woman.
Very,
Yeah.
very wise.
Yeah.
Very
I
wise.
come from a
Yeah.
family of a lot of characters, a lot of really fun characters from
Yeah.
over the place. So I know your
Yeah.
dad was a
Well, that's
huge publicist in LA and he handled all these huge stars. Did you grow up around all those people?
I did. I mean, it seemed normal to me, but yeah, when I was a kid, he was in the music business. Before that, he was with Bill Cosby with management. So he had a lot of different talent around always. Bill was a rising comic at that time, and he had people like Elton John and Neil Diamond always at the house. We
Unbelievable.
lived up in one of the canyons, which, off of Benedict Canyon on Shady Brook, uh, which anyone who knows LA, amazing songwriters and musicians all wrote songs about living in the canyons. And, you got Jim Morrison and the Doors and all these,
The
bands that
Laurel
broke
Canyon
right
Canyon.
here in the Troubadour, the
Mhm.
Laurel Canyon and Benedict. And anyways, so it's legendary all around this area. But so my dad was working with MCA Records. He was basically what title would be at head A&R now. So Elton John would take my mom shopping. Neil Diamond would be at the house on the weekends. I was best friends with Neil's kid, who's actually married to a friend of mine, ironically enough, that I went to elementary school with. So that's kind of a nice little
Ellen
bit
Diamond is one of my best
of
friends. Ellen Diamond
oh,
is,
really?
yeah, she's my sister's daughter's godmother, my niece's godmother. Um,
Okay.
I remember when I met
Got
him,
it.
it was at where we were, I was at Jerry Weintraub's house for his 50th birthday party or 60th birthday party in Malibu years ago. And
Okay.
sat
What a
at a
character
table,
he was.
yeah, and I sat at a table with Alan Funt and Neil Diamond. And these people, I can't remember their name, they owned the first Cineplex Odeon. They owned the first one,
Okay.
first,
Okay.
first, yeah. Um, and so when Neil Diamond stood up and said, "Hi, I'm Neil," and I wanted to say no shit.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I couldn't believe he
Yeah.
was being so humble and so nice to me. I was like shocked. I was like, "Well, it's so nice to meet you too, Mr. Diamond." My God, it was
Yeah.
just incredible. Some of those people, amazing. And I met Bill
That's
Cosby.
so great. There was a
He was very,
Yeah.
very nice to me. He was very funny. It was during the dentist bit. I don't know if you remember the dentist bit. That was the funniest bit I think he's ever
I
done. And
really oh wow.
being a father, when the kids come down,
Okay.
"We have cake for breakfast," and he's like, "Well, it's got eggs and milk and butter." Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
were fun times.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I never shied away from telling stories, even though some people have become controversial or whatever else happened to them later in life, but we're talking about a time, 19 late 60s Bill Cosby, not, what happened later, whether it was true, not true, did or didn't, that's not my concern. I'm talking about a Bill Cosby in the 60s. My dad worked with, I mean, when I think about it, there's a lot of controversial people, even who, when I did restaurants and nightclubs, all different stories and different things, and some true, not true. But anyway, getting to know all these people, I never shy away from talking about them without judgment, because it's not my place nor anybody's place to judge without knowing. So Bill Cosby was one of those names. Neil Diamond, Elton John. I think he brought Deep Purple to the U.S. And then when he got into PR, he was working with Patty Duke, legendary, Academy Award winning
Yeah.
actress, and
Wow.
Patty Duke was great. And then he worked with Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson at
Oh,
a
wow, I
time when they
love
were
that.
actually going through a divorce with each other. So imagine having to spin both those sides. And anyway,
Uh-huh.
Burt was a good friend of my dad's. In fact, when I did my first play, I was acting on the soap opera opera, and I knew I needed to improve my skill set as quickly as possible to get ready for the storyline. So I committed to do a play on Sunset here called the Tiffany Theater, which
I
has
know.
been since knocked down.
Did
Okay.
they knock that
And
down?
my
Oh,
dad,
that's terrible. I love that place.
they
Oh,
did. Yeah, they did. And my dad brought Burt Reynolds to the play. So here I am on stage and I look up and I see my dad sitting there with Burt Reynolds,
oh my
who, you know,
God.
anyone our age, I mean, Burt
Oh my
Reynolds,
God.
Smokey and the Bandit. I
Forget
mean, he
about
was
it.
legendary,
Oh my
right? And number
God.
one box office in the world. And he happened to be a great actor. As commercial as his career became, he really like Deliverance, and I mean, he was a serious actor. Um, and
And
he was a
charming as
character.
hell. So
Oh,
charming. I mean, he would go on Johnny Carson or
absolutely.
whatever, and you would just fall in love with him all over again all the time. He was sharp, really sharp.
He was the outsider rebel. He would say to my dad that maybe there were five people that he ever punched in his entire life, and they all turned out to like run the heads of the studios. He says like his luck, the the guys that he punched absolutely were the guys that could have given him a job. So that was Burt.
I love it.
But I love that he had a great later stage of his career. You know, Boogie Nights and some different things that he did brought him right back into the forefront. And
That's a big deal.
great guy.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, great. Well,
Yeah.
that's the shame of Hollywood. We all think that there's some power that are sitting up there ready to cultivate and make the next star that way in a good way, right? And there's just not that group of people doing that like that, you know? I wish it were like that. Where you're like, okay, if I just do a great job, someone will notice me and then that'll it's not. It's all about fans and ticket sales and foreign box office and different things that move the needle as an actor that make people want to put you in their shows.
But now
Talent
it's about
sometimes is,
influencers.
well, same thing, right? It's how
It's
many
not the
people are
same thing
following
because
that
they don't have
person.
talent. They don't have talent. It just yeah, some of them do. Okay,
Right.
some of them do. Some of them do.
Right.
But a lot of them don't have talent, and they're just good at at,
Right.
at selling toothpaste or whatever they're promoting. And and uh
Yeah.
and I just got so
It's like
offended.
the Jake Paul fight that it's like the Jake Paul fight. You
Yeah.
know, he fought Tyson at 60
Yeah.
years old.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing, you
I'm
know?
like,
And
what?
if Jake Paul really wants to be a boxer and not a marketing guy, let him fight a boxer and then we'll know how good of a boxer he is. But right now, he has the luxury of just making tens of millions of dollars and being a marketing guy. So on one hand, I give him credit, and on the other hand, I don't want to call him a boxer, and I don't think people should. And that's
Right.
sort of the way that we're kind of describing influencers. If
Yeah.
you want to be an influencer, great. But if you're going to go tell a story and want to be an actor, then be an actor, right?
Yeah, a lot of times they can get a job though if they have 100,000 followers. You can call your own shots. You can get a series.
But
And I'm like,
I
what?
know.
It's not fair. It's just not fair. I don't know what they
But
do.
look at how many talented people that were superstars then had decades of no work, you know, from the John Travolta to Nicolas Cage to whomever. There's a laundry list of people that all of a sudden got a second chance. You're like, oh wow, I forgot how great they're. A lot of times it was Quentin Tarantino bringing them back and being like, no, that's my guy. And you're like,
That's
wow,
right.
really? Why wasn't he working for decades? It wasn't because of talent. It wasn't because of any of that other stuff. Is that there is no group curating, cultivating a community. Nicolas Cage shouldn't have gone decades without work, or
Definitely not.
this John Travolta, you know, you're
Definitely
talking
not.
about people who are legendary.
Yeah.
They should have had jobs all the way through,
Yeah.
but we don't take care of our own that way, you know? Um, so I don't know. There's a community and then there's not, then there's, you know, all kinds of other stuff, but
I think you learned that from your
it's an
dad.
interesting town.
I think you learned that from your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you picked that up
Yeah.
from your dad.
I learned so much from him. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
dad was an amazing man, amazing
Yeah.
man,
I wish I could have met him.
and
My
a lot of fun. You know, being in and around the industry is beautiful, but you can get lost in it. And I think, you know, what my dad learned is that there's the pitfalls in this and the people, and he didn't want to be a babysitter anymore to a lot of the talent and, you know, these household names. It's a lot to take on, and sometimes you can lose your soul in this process of being in PR and marketing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. My friend Marilee Mahoney, her dad was Jim Mahoney, and Jim Mahoney Sr., his first client was Clark Gable, and it went on
Oh,
from there.
wow.
Yeah, he was Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack and that whole thing. And he just wrote a
Right.
book called Get Mahoney. And I'm trying to get him on the show. He's 96 and he'll go do book signings, but he really doesn't want to. And I mean, we're friends. I mean, we're really
Yeah.
she's my daughter's godmother, one of my daughter's godmother. But the stories that Marilee tells, growing up in Beverly Hills and having John Wayne come into the foyer at 9 o'clock at night, and she's in bed and she hears John Wayne and she goes, oh, she puts her clothes on. She goes, hi.
So great. It's
I
so
love
great.
those stories. They kill me, you know. They just
Well, you know, like the John Waynes of the world and the Clark Gables, these movie stars, these legends. It's like, unfortunately, this culture doesn't even allow that to happen because it's so invasive. And if they do build you up, they take you down right away. Whereas those celebrities, they were stars. They were untouchable. You didn't get private inside 24-hour media coverage on somebody. That's what allowed them to be bigger than life. And I think we have to go back to having that barrier and not letting everything in and everything being told if we're going to ever have celebrity superstars again. And listen, maybe that's not a good thing to have a celebrity superstar anymore. But if you want that, and I think people do need something to look up to, I think we're going to have to kind of go back to that sort of celebrity as
I
opposed to
think that would
the
be fantastic.
influencer on reality TV that everyone knows everything about, you
Yeah.
know?
I would love to see that happen again. But I know in daytime, um, I was a victim of something that happened, and it was just Susan Lucci was making so much money per show. So if you came
Right.
up after her and you were doing really, really well, they didn't want
Mm,
another one of those. They didn't want another Susan Lucci. They didn't want to have to pay somebody else that much money. And I think
right.
so they would take your storyline down. That happened to me.
Mm,
So I think that when that happens in show business, there's the people that have to pay these people are trying to control how how much power they can keep, because if
right.
somebody gets to
Right.
be too big, then they have to pay them.
Right.
and and
Well,
and it's a
isn't
lot.
it embarrassing the amount of work that soap actors have to do to put those scenes up day in and day out versus doing a film, right? So
Yeah,
we're doing 30, 40 pages of dialogue a day, killing ourselves,
yeah,
and the turnaround time is so quick. And
yeah.
then you look at like a movie star that gets to do a quarter of a page a day and the whole process. So by the time they did their long shot, medium shot, close up, they've had all day to learn
All
that
day,
quarter of a page anyway.
all
Whereas
day.
us, we're doing sports broadcasts, five, six cameras shooting us. We're
Yeah,
doing a scene one or two takes at most. So you better know your stuff and hit your blocks and everything. Take one because you don't
yeah,
have multiple takes, and
no,
then you're out. And it's like
yeah.
you could put
They don't
Clark
even let you have a
Gable,
dress. They don't let the dress rehearsals are like a thing of the past.
you could put the biggest movie star on the planet and throw him to the wolves in a soap opera, and they will tell you, and they'll give us props and say, okay, I understand what you guys do. They'll get it because, right?
Yeah,
Soap operas deserve a lot more credit than they've ever been given.
yeah, it's true. Especially when they put out really great stuff, because no matter how
Yeah,
great
because
the
the
stuff is,
turnaround time is just,
even the stuff that you
yeah,
did, no matter no matter how fabulous that was, there were still 20 other scenes they had to shoot that day.
that's exactly right. It's
So
nuts. The schedule is
you still
nuts.
had to get it in this little period of time. And yeah, they might have been really supportive, and yeah, they might have taken you different places and blah blah blah, but still
Right,
you had,
right.
it was number 18,
Yeah,
19, and 20, and you had to get it done by 7 o'clock. So that's that,
yeah,
and so
that's that.
yeah, it's a skill, and I'm grateful that we had the chance to do it too, because it's really fun and it keeps it
Yeah,
really alive. And anything else might feel really boring to me, really. I really
yeah, yeah,
enjoyed that challenge. I liked that punch. I
yeah,
liked that every day, having a
yeah.
race. I liked that a lot. It was
Yeah. Oh wow, that adrenaline rush of getting ready to go up on the set
yeah,
and the
I
stage. Oh,
loved that.
the butterflies, everything, that
I loved it.
excitement, that ah,
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
It was more
I
exciting.
I I love playing sports. So football, I played high school football. I loved it, but soap acting gave me that adrenaline rush, like when I was playing sports,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
because I did other formats, TV or film or whatever. It's not that feeling, you know, it's different.
It's totally different.
It's
Even
different.
theater is different. You know, theater's
Yeah.
close, but it's the same thing every day. I
Yeah.
loved having something
Yeah.
different. I loved it. I just
The
loved
only thing I
so
didn't like
different.
about theater is the projecting. I didn't like the fact that you felt like you had to project in theater, right? It took me out of it. Listen, everyone has a different thing. I like to be able to be mic'd and be nuanced and do less and bring the audience in. So I like the medium of film, and I went to film school to be a director. So I like that storytelling. On stage, you got to project so that the last row of the theater can hear you, and it's bigger, it's more exaggerated.
It's very
I'm
hard.
not a I'm not a theater actor.
Yeah, I got in trouble for that when I went to do Destination. What was it called? I was doing Designing Women. They were bringing back Designing Women 2 years ago.
Mm,
And they kept saying, "We can't hear you." And I swear I was yelling. And they're like, "We can't
right.
hear you.
Yeah.
You're not loud enough." And it was hard. It was hard to have the emotion proper and
Right.
like the
No.
nuance that you're talking about. It was hard to have
Yeah.
that and really and truly be talking like that and have it not
Yeah.
sound weird. And it was just so difficult for me. And I did it, but it was hard. It was hard.
It's very unnatural.
Yeah.
With Maurice Bernard, right? When because most of my scenes were with Sonny and Stone early on, and you know he was a veteran. He was on a soap, 10 years before me, and obviously he was a seasoned actor. And so doing the scenes with him when I first started, he would like whisper,
I know I
whisper.
hate
He was
that.
very into and the notes from the director would come down. We need more volume. We need more volume. And Maurice would be like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. He would be the type where he'd be like, I'll just stay in my dressing room. I'm not going to ruin the craft. So it was very funny, having someone like that. And
Wow.
I tried to learn from him, and you can see decades of unbelievable work like he's done. He's still a dear friend, and he's so talented, but he would fight to have the creative control to do less and not raise his voice to satisfy. He was like, then mic me or fix the boom or you figure it out on the production side, but I'm not changing my performance. Oh, he was funny. One of the things that he did, which was so
I
great,
love
if you
that.
watch
I
his
love that.
scenes, he he'll position himself and the way that he holds his body, that he always could reach for a gun that he could shoot if need be. That's how originally when we were doing our scenes, he would say to me, he goes, "This is my character, is that I always feel in charge that I could reach for it." And right, that was his power of his character. And I was like, wow, what an amazing approach to the character as a mobster, that the gun would be there. And that's how he
All the time.
and you could see in his work and building of his character,
Yeah.
he played into that a lot. So the soft voice, the bringing the audience in, the having the potential gun to eliminate a threat. And so in learning from veterans and people like that, I got really blessed and really lucky. And there were some people that are just like Tony Gary. When he came on the screen, you couldn't take your eyes off the guy. That's why he was such a legend with Luke and Laura and all that stuff. He was probably the biggest soap actor, I think, to date, was the Luke and Laura storyline. But when you were acting with him, you could see why. He just had something about his presence. Could be whatever he was talking about, didn't matter. He he controlled the magnetism of the scene,
Yeah, I never got to
you
work
know?
with him. That would have been really fun. I would have liked that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never
yeah,
got.
yeah.
He wasn't there when
Did
I.
you watch the did you watch the soap before you got on it?
No, no. I was a
So my
CBS.
mom and my grandmother watched General Hospital and
I was a
all of
CBS.
ABC. So if I
Okay.
was ever home, you were CBS. So they were ABC. So if I was ever home sick day from school and I'm laying in my bed with either my grandmother or my mom and they're taking care of me, soups and whatnot, we're watching General Hospital together. So I kind of went on to their They're soap
Oh,
opera. So
I love that.
my grandmother did my fan mail. She would read me the ones that she would pull some out and read me, oh, you got to hear what this one said again this week. And so we bonded over that, which was amazing. I brought her to the set a few times. She was hysterical, calling everybody their character name.
Of
And
course.
like they
The
were the real
cute.
and I would never interfere with that. I wanted her to have that beautiful experience. And it was great to just, watch and be there and kind of be a conduit to that.
That
So
fun.
I forever have a place in my heart for soap operas, soap acting, the storytelling. I hope it's not a dying craft because reality TV took a big chunk of daytime. There's only like 3 or 4 shows left,
I know, I know, I know. It's
you
terrible.
know.
But The Gates is coming. Beyond the Gates is coming. It's gonna be fun.
I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited about that.
it'll be on soon. And it's mostly African American, but who cares? I'm just glad it's another soap opera and it's on CBS. It's on a network.
How great.
It's not
How
online.
great.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Good. It's the first new one in how many decades, right?
A long, long, long time. Long, long.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Sunset Beach.
Every culture, right? Every culture has soap operas. You look at Mexico and Argentina, Brazil. I mean, it's huge. It's the
Yeah.
and the entire culture watches that soap opera. It's the unifier, right? So I hope that they still continue to put money behind these programs and let the stories unfold. And if done right, it's a great medium because you're telling a story daily as
Yeah.
opposed to once a week. Or now we have the ability to binge watch an entire series on some of the streaming networks.
Which
But
I am
that's kind of the
so
feeling that
guilty
you had
of.
with the soaps.
I did The
Oh
Diplomat
yeah,
in 2 days last week, and I did
yeah,
Bridgerton, the whole thing in like 3 days. My daughter was
yeah.
visiting, and she said, "Have you seen the third season of Bridgerton?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Oh, we have to watch it." I said, "But you've already seen it." She goes, "I'll watch it again." And it
Right.
was nuts. We were just nuts. It was like it's like you go and you get some food and you come back out and it's just
Yeah.
mm,
The writing on the shows, it's better than ever. I mean, so impressed with how many shows they are and so many opportunities now. It's like that part's great. And that's why, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you, for me, for anybody that still wants to perform in this business, because before it was, a handful of network shows. That was it. So now there's hundreds. So that we're going to have a lot more opportunities, I think, to do good work with good people,
I hope
different platforms.
I hope so.
Um, I think so. You're only getting better as an actress, more life experiences, know yourself better.
Yeah,
We're only better actors now than we were.
absolutely.
So you've got a lot to offer in so
Yeah,
many ways.
yeah.
And or we got to tell our own stories,
Right.
put it together ourselves, like, be the creative
Yeah, I'm all for
storyteller.
that. I'm all for that. I've been doing a lot of writing, so I think that's incredibly fun.
Yeah.
Well, I have
Yeah.
loved talking to you, and I loved meeting you, and I'd love to see you in person,
Mm,
like a real
Me
person.
too. Pleasure. Yeah.
Um,
It was a great, great, great talk. Great to meet you here as well.
you keep in touch with me, and I'll keep in touch with you, and
Sounds good.
this will be on within the week, and people are gonna
Okay, great.
just love you and just love it. And I'm
Thank you for having me. And
so
yeah,
impressed. So many areas. You're a superstar in many areas, not just one. So thank you for being here today.
thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a
Bye.
great rest of your day.
You too,
Enjoy
honey.
the desert.
I
All right.
will. Bye. How fabulous was that? I just loved that interview. I loved meeting Michael Sutton. Can't wait to see him in real life. And this was really fun. And I wanted to make sure that you knew that you could look for his wife's silks brand, the clothing brand that he and his wife have. It's called lakrisbrand.com, lakris.com. And I'm very excited about you having the opportunity to look at these clothes because it's just beautiful stuff. Also, he's a big time real estate agent in Beverly Hills. If you're looking for something fabulous there, look him up and like and subscribe if you don't mind, if you liked the show, and tell your friends. Write any comments that you have to me, and I will answer you as best I can. Have a wonderful day. Get ready for the holidays. Enjoy it. This is a joyous time of year. God bless.